Systems which make use of assume that if a set is on, somebody is watching it. This is often far from the truth. In a recent study undertaken by the Oklahoma State University, was later printed in the Journal of Advertising Research, in which a camera was attached to television sets for a small sample of families, it was found that 19% of the time there was no one watching the television set at all, while for an additional 21% of the time, while there were people in the room, they were inattentive and not watching the set. As for a total of 40% of the time, nobody was watching.
Might say our ratings are analogous to the ticket taker at the box office. We tell how many people actually viewed a particular program, and the decision as to whether that will be left on or taken off is up to others.
While there is some comparison between counting the box office and publishing ratings, the analogy is not a very close one. In the box office, we get a 100% account of those people who actually paid money to attend a performance. In the case of the ratings which are published currently through the use of electronic devices, all we know is the number of sets that were turned on among a sample of people. We have no idea whether or not they viewed the set, they viewed the programs, or had any interest in them whatsoever.
It's not an honest box office.
Bill Greeley.
I'm sure that there's tremendous viewing of virtually everything. Those Hollywood sausages are beautifully made, and the average citizen can sit there and be mesmerized. But when the entire industry is focused on a sampling of 1,000 out of 55 million, it just is not a true box office. And it creates a fantastic hysteria. Has nothing at all to do with the quality of the show. The network really isn't interested in whether it's just a crap game or whether it's a magnificent, beautiful documentary or what. If it doesn't get those numbers, forget it.
Another criticism, beyond the ratings' shaky scientific ground, is that networks misuse the charts to take off good programs, leave on poor ones. Numbers count. So do superlatives. The New York Times, 2 ads, same day. In their race to be first, 2 networks find themselves drinking from the same cup of euphoria at the same time.
The network atmosphere is charged when the ratings come out. It's beautiful to see. They should have such a melodrama on the screen. Would that get a rating? Boy, as the phone rings at Variety and the 2 losing networks are copying their plea. You can't believe it. We got one from a network recently. They called up and said, we lost on account of Halloween.
I think ratings have a real function.
Mike Dan, CBS.
Just as the circulation reports for a newspaper or the book sales numbers by bookstores. We are a financially supported medium that comes from private enterprise who underwrite most of our bills. They have every right to expect and to know how many people are being serviced to move their goods and services, and the ratings is a very good way. The thing we mustn't do is determine everything we do by ratings. But they certainly have a genuine function, and I think are going to be here always.
While programmers deny that ratings significantly affect their decisions, it should be noted that 30 of this season's poorest rated shows will not be seen next year. Though various factors may have influenced their fate, all share one position in common: the bottom of the rating chart. ABC President Tom Moore says he's fed up with the use of average ratings.
But I think the fault comes in our averaging the ratings and saying that ABC is at this position this week, NBC is at this position this week, and CBS is at this position. Because I think such figures are meaningless. I know they're meaningless. But to the public and to the people who invest in and back us in stock buying, they seem to be out of proportion in interest. I think that we must find some way in our industry to be more cautious in our use of ratings, and I believe that there's a consciousness of this spreading through the top of our industry. I hope that ratings in the future will be less of a factor.
Industry observers and the FCC, which is investigating ratings, will now look to Mr. Moore to implement his words with action. to stop making program decisions using figures he himself has called meaningless. In the ratings race, the writer is all too often a willing victim, accepting handsome commissions to create material that deprives both the viewer and himself. Rod Serling says the networks are to blame because they insist on the writer giving them pat. Then why does he write for TV?
Number one, the money belt, and number two, the more amorphous area of creatively satisfying. Certainly it has been a windfall and a godsend to the so-called, quote, young writer, unquote, to begin with. Most of us would never have had a platform, no proscenium at all. We would have probably had agencies, done civic theater plays in small towns, or coached football teams. Through the good offices of television, we not only made a living, but we became known, and we became relatively wealthy. So it's difficult to predatorily bite the hand that feeds without being cognizant, or at least paying some kind of lip service indeed, to the fact that television has been very good to us. But in terms of what it does emotionally into the gut of the man who wants to create, this isn't the platform anymore. To the man with a serious idea, commentative on the problems of our times, the legitimate conflicts between human beings, I don't think really that television is the proper place for him to take his idea.
The Hollywood sound stages, where most television episodes are made. It has been called the dream dump, the refuse heap for all the broken, marked down furniture of good intentions. Here, where shows are as conformist and as predictable as the neat white shacks in which they are produced, work is going on toward the new television season for the fall of 1966. Just below us, as a tourist guide might intone, a take is about to begin on Paramount Soundstage number 2.
Here we go. Locally.
And overlap in there.
Okay, very quiet, please. Roll, please. 38, 2.
And I'm giving the look. Action.
This pilot, The Hero, a David Susskind Talent Associates production, has already been sold to NBC for the fall. NBC will also debut The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., Tarzan, and a comedy about a rock and roll group called The Monkees.
What's the matter? What do you mean, what's the matter? I can tell by your eyes something's happened. What's the matter?
Nothing's the matter. Hey, come on, don't start with my eye.
Among the new shows CBS will offer are dramatic specials, Operation Jericho, a World War II espionage series, and a situation comedy about an astronaut called It's About Time.
Got it. All right, boys.
ABC's new shows will include Stage 66, which they describe as a weekly hour of innovation, Rat Patrol, The Time Tunnel, and The Green Hornet. While it would be unfair to prejudge next season's new programs, there is no clear evidence that television 66-67 will be markedly different from today's programming.
Everybody? Well, I'll have a new setup and give me 42 on the crew.
42 on the crew, 1 on the cast, 280. 45 on the crew.
What then does all this add up to? It adds up to most of television being so deplorable that even the ad man is dismayed.
I would say this.
Dick Pinkham, Ted Bates Agency.
The main problem for my money right now is that the direction, the thrust of television programming is counter to the mainstream of the thrust of American society. We are, after all, increasingly an educated nation. We've made tremendous strides, and more people are getting more and more educated through secondary school, through college, and into postgraduate work. And yet, television, the direction is going now with programs like Batman, which is a big hit, is exactly counter to this. It is going more towards the people who haven't had the experience of an excellent education. I think this is a sickness for television, and it should be corrected.
I doubt if television really will ever change. I think basically we're fighting a losing battle. Those of us who keep claiming that it's an art form. Indeed, it can be an art form. Indeed, on odd occasions, it is an art form. But I suppose principally, basically, fundamentally, it's a commercial medium designed as a display case to push products. And so long as it fits into that mold and performs that function, the key approach that's going to be taken, and the most basic approach, is get as many people to watch as you can and program down to that level, that arithmetical level. And as long as you program down to that level, you're not going to get properly balanced programming. You're going to get only those shows which appeal to the greatest number. And as in the history of art since for 2,000 years, beyond Sophocles, beyond all of them, you're going to get mass entertainment, which by its nature can be titillating and funny and cute and frothy and light, which will not survive its 1/2 hour on the air. Nobody's going to be talking about that 100 years from now.
The Office of the Federal Communications Commission. E. William Henry, Chairman.
What troubles me is the truth that I see in the rising tide of criticism that the commercial medium is now receiving. And it's receiving it from people other than the government, by and large, from me or my colleagues. I think, as I say, this criticism is true, and I think it's widespread, and I think it's deep. It's not limited only to the critics in the major cities. It's noticeable in the letters that I get from people who like television and who want to look at it, but who are tremendously dissatisfied with this season's show.
What did the commissioner feel would happen if television didn't improve?
I believe that if television entertainment mass appeal programming continued as it is now, it would fall of its own weight. The television people might wake up one morning and find that they were talking to themselves.
Some critics say one alternative could be educational television. NET produces shows for over 100 affiliates. It is headquartered in New York. President John White's responsibility is using grants from foundations, government, business, and individuals for programming that hopefully is not an echo of commercial television. Among the critics who fought for educational television and thus regarded as a growing, sometimes wayward child, is the Washington Post's Larry Laurent. He feels NET often ranges too wide in its documentaries, touching on problems without offering solutions.
Fact is that the producers for NET are under specific instructions to do just the opposite. They're told to dig deep and to suggest solutions. I mean, our programs in foreign affairs, our programs in education, our programs on values, on packaging, on auto safety, each and every one of these has suggested solutions that we believe that the American people ought to seek. This is, in fact, one of the things that we do that's different from commercial television, because they don't do this and we do it.
Terence O'Flaherty, San Francisco Chronicle, believes NET has some distance to go, especially in its production techniques.
Now, National Educational Television, they're going to have to do something better than classroom television at night. I don't care how sophisticated one viewer might be. He doesn't want to watch a lecture.
Well, on the question of production values, I quite agree. I think, frankly, that we've made giant strides in improving our production techniques, but I'd also be the very first to maintain that we've only just started and we've got to go much further. If he is specific in his suggestion about lectures, he's watching a different network. Because the fact is that we got away from professors in front of gray draperies a long time ago. If, on the other hand, he means that we are suggesting alternatives and we are, in a sense, preaching at people, we'll never escape this, because, as I indicated earlier, I think this is one of our responsibilities.
Beyond the potential alternative of NET, does Larry Laurent feel we must be forever hung up in commercial television's status quo?
Hell no, the battle is only beginning. And I think we're going to see some changes in this business in the next 10 years that will make what we now see on television look like sort of a primeval age. We're going to have more stations, we're going to have diverse stations, we're going to have specialized stations. This of its nature will force the business as it exists to change.
One of the changes becoming visible nationally is UHF, ultra-high frequency stations like Channel 32 Chicago. Here, WFLD is building both a plant and programming, which, in the words of its general manager, Red Quinlan, will come to mean
an adult station from 6 to midnight, not programming to teenagers, heavy emphasis on documentaries, adult program, particularly in the 6:30 to 8 period, when I note that conceptually the network programs, Batman is a great instance of the trend in that direction. The teenage audience gives that a great inflated total share of audience. We will not have most network reruns. We will have a Profiles in Courage. We will have a Richard Boone Repertory Theater. We will have certain documentaries that we can buy from networks and other sources all around the world, but we'll be adult.
One unique feature of this Marshall Field-owned UHF station will be live news coverage from the city rooms of the Chicago Sun-Times and Daily News. Automatic slave cameras, remote-controlled, will transmit fast-breaking stories that will be edited and read on camera by working newsmen.
We're not going to be locked into a numbers game or a rating game. If we get them, we'll be happy and we'll use them. If we don't, we'll still make it our own way as best we can.
In London, another solution to America's TV problems is offered by a man who has written some of the medium's most constructive criticism. John Crosby, formerly of the New York Herald Tribune, and now writing in England, tells from where he thinks the impetus for improvement must come.
I think it would have to come from the government. I've never altered my conviction that this is a government responsibility, where the government's almost afraid to step into it. And yet, here you have BBC, which is supposed to be government, really isn't. It's almost above the British government. The British government's almost terrifying. Well, you get this tremendous experimentation, very gutsy program. Sometimes I say it doesn't work, but they have a freedom that, well, that even the commercials. I think I would love to see a government network in the United States. Have one government network and two commercial networks, and I think they would both be very good for each other.
Television, first of all, the system of television that we have in this country, I think is the best in the world because it combines a commercial system with a non-commercial system. And unquestionably, in my mind, this will give you the best choice.
One man is not so sure the best choice is that easily available. Pat Weaver is a former president of NBC and head of a pay TV network. He feels that there is a broadcast lobby which restricts the viewer's free choice.
The broadcast lobby, though, is also well known to be tremendously powerful. This is because so many congressional people in Congress, senators and congressmen, either have or represent in their law firms other interests, that is, broadcasting interests and theater interests, and this is most unfortunate. The present work, for instance, of the broadcast lobby to block CATV, community antenna systems, from having their own programming is ridiculous. I mean, as I say, the American citizen has bought a set. Let's say he bought a color set, spent $400 or $500, pays several dollars a month for electricity. He has 80 channels in the set. When he finally gets around to realizing that every one of those 80 channels can be hot, in other words, can be giving him material, if he wants it, he's going to scream like nothing you ever heard, and then the whole thing will change in Washington.
In Washington, FCC Chairman Henry denies such pressures are robbing the viewer. He believes, however, there is much about our current system of television, both commercial and educational, that cries out for change.
Ideally, we should make better use of the system. The non-commercial side should have more money. It should be more exciting. It should be more interesting. It should, in my judgment, at some times, appeal to more people than it does, and make an attempt to appeal to more people. It's the reverse of the commercial side. On the commercial side, ideally, while it should continue to be an advertising medium and sell soap and automobiles and toothpaste, the managers of the commercial television system should try to make it more of a communications system than an advertising system. At some times during the day, they should communicate, not advertise. It's these pressures of the marketplace that make the medium what it is, and it takes a courageous man with the pressures of Wall Street, of the board of directors, of the need to make profit, to disregard those pressures at various times, and that's what needs to be done.
Bill Greeley of Variety thinks what needs to be done is for sponsors to buy commercials like magazine ads. His solution is
to get them the hell out of programming. They shouldn't make any decisions whatsoever pertaining to programming. even if they had the hippest showman on earth, if they had P.T. Barnum and I don't know who else rolled up into one, they are men with a special interest, which overrides anything they do. They should be taken out of the medium. They should be allowed to buy their minute. They should, I think they should pay twice for it what they're getting. The FCC should rule that they should never look at a rating book. They should look at the cash register. If the minute sold goods for them, they decide, then they can buy more of them. If it didn't, take them out. And these minutes should be rotated so they don't even know on a particular night which show it'll be in.
Bob Hope presents the Chrysler Theater.
The Chrysler Theater is all that is left of regularly scheduled drama on primetime television today. One solution to getting back on the air plays and actors like these, shown in the days when TV nurtured the drama, is now suggested by an ad man, responded to by a network head. The viewer should see to it that they get together.
I think the way to get serious drama on the air is for them to say, we want this, and we think we have an obligation to the public to put it on the air, and we know we have to have it sponsored. We can't afford to run it sustaining year after year, so we'll price this differently from the Beverly Hillbillies or from Get Smart or from the movies. And this way, I think they'd find that there are a lot of advertisers who presently aren't really interested in some of the stuff on the air, who might be interested if the costs were reduced.
Maybe we would get good drama on the air if we were to go out and offer it as a particular bargain. But and we will experiment with that this coming fall. At this point in time, there has not been a strong demand on the part of advertisers for dramatic programming that we've offered for this coming year or for the recent past, at any price.
What other changes might we look forward to in the broadcast establishment? John Schneider, CBS.
I'm hard-pressed to say that there's something wrong with the status quo. Will it change? Yes, television will change enormously in the next 7, 10 years. The changes that will be taking place will grow out of technology. The small miniature color camera will cause programming to look different because we'll be able to go different places with it. Will the stories be any better in drama? I don't know how the stories are going to be any better because I don't think the writers are going to be worse or better. We are going to get the best writers we can to do their very best work, and the best actors and actresses, and comedians, dancers, designers. They're going to do the best they know how. But I don't know what form. I don't know what form that can change. News and informational programming will change. Early Bird will bring us in touch with the world. Early Bird and its sisters of the future. Certainly in 10 years we will have an instant communications capability worldwide. But as to what we are going to say to the world when we have their attention, I'm not certain yet. That's the thing that worries me. We are thinking about it. We have respect for it. I don't have any solution to it quite yet. At least nothing I'd articulate at this time. It's rather frightening, though, to think, well, frightening probably is too strong a word, but I think respect, maybe. We'll be able, maybe, to talk to everybody in the world. Now all we've got to do is decide what we're going to say.
But there are things to say and things to be done now. The responsibility and the shame for what's happening to television is shared by these forces. First, the paradox within the industry itself. The networks and the advertisers who must serve the public and their stockholders. Station and network profits have never been greater, while programming has never been worse. What is required to deal with this paradox was suggested by Chairman Henry.
It takes a courageous man with the pressures of Wall Street, of the board of directors, of the need to make profit, to disregard those pressures at various times. And that's what needs to be done.
As for Chairman Henry, he should get from Congress a Communications Act with more teeth in it. One that would enable the FCC to license the networks as well as the stations. This would give him more power to force broadcasters to truly serve the public's interest, convenience, and necessity. Next, the level of television criticism must be raised. The few critics who care have already helped bring about some small improvement in news and entertainment specials. But many TV columns are wastelands themselves. They should encourage the medium to innovate, to fall on its face, as it occasionally will, from a loftier height. The audience, too, is responsible for what's happening to television. Thousands of you disgraced yourselves recently when you complained that coverage of a man in space emergency interrupted Batman. If TV's usual output is mediocre, those of you who complained are getting precisely what you deserve. However, if you are unhappy with the state of television, do something about it. Turn off the set, read a book, embrace your wife, kiss your child. Then write letters to the sponsors and to Tom Moore, ABC, Mort Werner, NBC, Mike Dan, CBS, and Jack White, NET. Nothing gets faster action than great numbers of people writing in and tuning out. It is urgently clear that educational television must provoke deeper thought and action, and that commercial television must give all the public, not just the mass audience, what it has the right to expect. And that is freedom to choose from the widest possible range of program matter, from experimentation, original drama, news commentary, from fresh comedy, variety, and adventure, from programs that cater to the imagination rather than the ratings. None of this choice will ever appear on our TV screens unless advertisers do get out of programming, unless the FCC is given a stronger hand, unless the viewer does make his needs known, and unless and until the broadcast leadership leads rather than follows what it believes to be majority taste.
At issue is a presentation of the Public Affairs Department of NET.
This is NET, the National Educational Television Network.